Hello, 5i research community. My name's Chris White. I'm the head of research at 5i. Today is Friday, March 7th, and this is the TSX Weekly Wrap. So this past week and past few months have been really tough for the broader markets. The TSX is down almost 5% from its all-time highs. The NASDAQ 100 is down about 9% from its all-time highs, and the S&P 500 is down about 6%. So we've seen tariff fears, downside economic surprises, and fears around a slowdown in AI have all been putting pressure on the markets. But I am seeing some green shoots in the market, and I wanted to discuss that in today's weekly wrap. So the first thing that I want to take a look at is some of the names that have been hitting new 52-week highs within the Canadian markets. So we see Wisdom Gold Mines, that's WDO, Dundee Precious Metals, Power Corp, and Alta Gas. All have been hitting new 52-week highs, and this is their price performance on a year-to-date basis. So we see a lot of trends and underlying themes within these names. They're mostly defensive or risk-off type of names. So, gold miners, utilities, insurance, and financials. This kind of makes sense in the current market environment, but also from some of the research that I've done, I also feel like these industries like utilities, insurance, agriculture, and some gold related names can really do well over the next several months or more, aside from just the current drawdown that we're seeing right now. And then given the strong drop in the markets, I've also noticed some names that have been, seeing drawdowns close to their historical average drawdowns from actual bear markets. So I'm not really trying to imply that some of these names might be at their bottom, but I do think that there's certainly more upside potential than downside potential in several of these names. And I won't list them all. I really just have CGI listed here, but I've filtered this across several different names, and I have kind of a list from myself that have seen these large drawdowns. So, for example, we have CGI. The ticker is GIB.A. It has about a 14% drawdown from its peak right now, which historically is all that it really sees when it has a drawdown. So even in bear markets like 2015, 2018, 2022, and then even with the August lows in 2024, it typically draws down about 15%. And then before kind of finding support and heading back higher, with the exception of 2020, which was kind of a black swan event. So I'm finding that really interesting that, the markets have seen large drawdowns, but under the surface, there's actually a lot of names that have seen really severe drawdowns, particularly like in relation to their historical drawdown averages. So I thought that was really interesting. I also wanted to touch on a metric that I've been following for quite some time now. And this really helps guide me for when I think a near-term bottom might be taking place. This metric is, it's the current VIX, which is the, kind of the gauge for fear in the markets, the volatility index. So the current VIX minus the 3-month forward VIX. So basically, most of the time, the current VIX is lower than the forward VIX, since investors really feel that risks in the future are greater than current risks right now. But when we see investors feel that the current risks are higher than those in the future, this metric moves positive, and that's highlighted in the yellow. And so the metric is the blue line there. And so historically, when this moves positive, it's been a really good near-term signal for the markets. So we can see the past instances have usually been followed by a bounce in the markets, although it's not great at detecting long-term trends, as we can see in 2022. But it is quite good at detecting when, things are maybe oversold on a near-term basis. So this is something that I've been following really closely, especially since this metric has actually been positive for the last 5 days from Monday, March 3rd to today, the 7th. And I looked back at all past instances since the metric, has been around. And on average, the average length that this metric stays positive for is about 5 days. So any longer than that is outside of the norm. And so I'm expecting this metric to head lower, at least in the next coming week or more. And then lastly, Next week's economic outlook. So on Wednesday, we have the Bank of Canada's interest rate decision. And with all the uncertainty right now, 25 bips cut is priced in. And then also on Wednesday is the US inflation reading. And on Thursday is PPI for the US. That's all that I have. Thanks and have a great weekend.